Going to look at changes. Okay. Now we're going to look at changes, and changes are important because in a project, changes are the single, changes are one of the biggest causes of delays and spending more money on a project. Why? Because you agree to deliver something. Somebody comes to you and says, "Oh yeah, this is a good idea. Why can't you just add that to it?" I'll give you an example. Somebody says, "Want to build this table now," and then somebody says, "So this table is nice, but why can't you make it 1 inch higher? It looks nicer if it's 1 inch higher." Then I ask the person, "How much would it cost to make this table 1 inch higher?" And then the person says, "Oh well, it's going to cost us about £5." I'm like, £5 is cheap. Let's do it, isn't it? Wonderful. But what happens here? Project manager or Prince 2 would encourage us to run what we call an impact assessment. An impact assessment tells us what will be the impact of raising this table by 1 inch. So I need to find out, when I raise this table by 1 inch, what else would it affect? Somebody would say, you need to raise the chair by another inch so it can, what is the cost of that one? Somebody would say, do you normally move this table out of this room? Yes, we do, once in a while. Now, if it's 1 inch higher, can it go past that door, for example? Do you understand? So change is not about £5 for the table. It's about what other items or deliverables would this change impact, and what is the cost, or what are the costs of making changes in those areas. So you find out that although the table is £5, so you say it's cheap to change the table, that's fine. But now to make the chair higher would cost us £15. To make the door wider so that this new side of the table can go out will cost us £20.
And it will be convenient for the people using it.
Exactly. And the guy using the table, you might have somebody who, for example, has maybe some physical disabilities, which that table will no longer be convenient for him, means you need to build another table. So just that one £5 change that you think is good enough, it's not expensive, you might find that the impact might cost you £120. So the impact of the change is not just the cost of what you want to change, but the cost of adapting all other requirements that would fulfill that particular change. Does that make sense? So don't think of changes as, oh yeah, it's £5. Let's just think of it in a wider perspective. This is what I've just talked about. So giving us a proper structured approach to managing change. All right. Now there are 2 flavors of changes. Okay. The first flavor is what we call a request for change. This is a request that is made by the customer. When the customer makes a request for change, the customer pays for that change. I told you about this earlier on today. When I talked about working for a company called Merkel, and when I was working for this company, we were delivering a project for another client, and I put together a change request process. So this client is very clear what the requirements are. Now, once the client comes back and says, I want you to do something outside this requirement, then you need to fill in my change request form. I'll run an impact assessment. I'll tell you the cost of that change because it's outside the scope of what we've agreed. Does that make sense? So once we agree a scope and the client introduces a change, what we call request for change, that change is paid for by the client. Now, once we have agreed a scope with the client, we have documented the scope, we've told the client how much this project is going to cost and the scope, then we realize that we have forgotten to add something, or we have done something wrong, or we have screwed up in one way or the other, or perhaps the client has said, okay, I'm paying £1,000 for this, right? You have assured me that this requirement to deliver what I want, and it's £1,000, and I say, yes, I will sign it, and then I remember, oops, I have forgotten something. I actually need to add this little bit at this point, and that bit is £50. We pay for it. And that's what we call an off-specification change. Does that make sense? All right. So these are the 2 flavors of changes. But you will get this all wrong if you get into a company and you do not put in place a change request process. Then you get this wrong. Because putting in place a change request process makes it very clear how everybody needs to deal with changes. It makes it clear so the client cannot escape, and tells your team also what it is what the consequences of not getting it right. So the team would need to be serious about it, make sure we understand the requirement before we give the client a cost, because once they pay, we might not be able to charge them for anymore. All right? So you need to understand. So if you go to your manager and say, John or Mary, we have a new change request, and the manager says, what type of change? Is an off specification change. So the manager knows it's generating from us. or it's a request for change, he knows it's generated from the client. So you don't just, you have to learn how to use these terminologies. And that's why you have this your 3 months work experience, so that you can actually do these things for real. Talk about them in class, you need to do them for real. Alright? Once you do them for real, the confidence is there. You can explain to any recruiter how you've done it, and everything is fine. Okay? That's why it's important.